We are continuing to examine the Fraud Risk Management Program, Principles 1 through 5. In the following lectures, we're going to drill down particularly into Principles 3, 4, and 5. Consistent with prior lectures in this area, the notes section at the bottom of the PowerPoint serves as the lecture transcript, so one can print the PowerPoint slides with the notes and have the lecture that I'm covering verbally in readable form. Again, I'd like to reiterate that some of the work and some of the ideas included here are derived from Jonathan Marks, who was a partner with Crow Horwath and has since moved on. But he was generous with his materials, and the two of us, have shared our materials back and forth across time. So, Principle 3, Fraud Prevention. So we're moving from the program in Principle 1, the assessment in Principle 2, to the prevention in Principle 3. So, prevention techniques to avoid potential key fraud risk events should be established where feasible to mitigate possible impacts on the organization. Fraud prevention and detection are related, but they are not the same concepts. Prevention encompasses policies, procedures, training, and communication that stop fraud from occurring, whereas detection focuses on activities and techniques that promptly recognize timely whether fraud has occurred or is occurring. While prevention techniques do not ensure fraud will not be committed, they are the first line of defense in minimizing fraud risk. One key to prevention is promoting from the board throughout the organization an awareness of the fraud risk management program, including the types of frauds that may occur. Meanwhile, one of the strongest fraud deterrents is the awareness that effective detective controls are in place. Combined with preventive controls, detective controls enhance the effectiveness of a fraud risk management program by demonstrating that preventive controls are working as intended and by identifying fraud if it occurs. Although detection controls may provide evidence that fraud has occurred or is occurring, they are not intended to prevent fraud. Every organization is susceptible to fraud, but not all fraud can be prevented, nor is it cost effective to try. An organization may determine that it is more cost effective to design its controls to detect rather than prevent certain fraud schemes. It is important that organization consider both fraud prevention and detection when developing its response to fraud risk. Despite the best efforts of those responsible for preventing fraud, one inevitable reality remains: fraud happens. Because fraud and misconduct can occur at various levels in any organization, it is essential that appropriate fraud preventive and detective techniques are in place. Although fraud prevention and detection are related concepts, they are not the same, as described in the prior email. Although preventive measures cannot ensure that all fraud will not be committed, they are the first line of defense in minimizing fraud risk. One key to prevention is making personnel throughout the organization aware of the fraud risk management program, including the types of fraud and misconduct that may occur. This awareness should enforce the notion that all of the techniques established in the program are real and will be enforced. The ongoing communication effort, could provide information on the potential disciplinary, criminal, and civil actions that the organization could take against perpetrating individuals. With this in mind, prevention and deterrence are interrelated concepts. If effective preventive controls are in place, working and well known to potential fraud perpetrators, they serve as strong deterrents to those who might otherwise be tempted to commit fraud. Fear of getting caught is always a strong deterrent. Effective preventive controls are therefore strong deterrent controls. The system of internal controls in an organization is designed to address inherent business risk. The business risks are identified in the Enterprise Risk Assessment Protocol from COSO and other sources, and the controls associated with each risk are noted. COSO's Enterprise Risk Management Integrated Framework describes the essential ERM components, principles, and concepts for all organizations, regardless of size. Preventive controls include human resources, items like background investigations, anti-fraud training, performance evaluations, and the development of the compensation systems, as well as exit interviews. These are all great tools and techniques that should embrace the anti-fraud measures within an organization. Authority limits on who can do what to what dollar magnitude, and then transaction level procedures, including supervisory reviews and sign-offs at the appropriate level. All of these are critical preventive control measures. Preventive controls also interface with all the other aspects of the fraud risk assessment. That includes documentation of the fraud prevention efforts, assessing fraud prevention from time to time to make sure that it is both designed adequately and implemented effectively, and then continuous monitoring of fraud prevention to make sure that it continues over time according to the goals and objectives of the fraud risk management program.